Good morning, Jason. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. I've experienced the movie. I love this movie in so many different reasons and ways because it relates with a modern day society, but also at my age, it takes me back to the day that my own stepdaughter was part of the story and that's why I could relate with it, because your wife in this movie went through what I went through, and it's like, oh my God.
Wow. Yeah. And it's that's something that I genuinely love about the film, is that not only if you have a teenager in your life or you recently were a teenager and you want to look back, I think any of these coming of age movies, when they're done well, you can't help but, of course, process something. For, in this case, you were the stepdad. And for a lot of us, like, whoa, high school was so rough. How did I make it through? Or it was great, and still here I am processing certain aspects of it.
And getting mixed up with the wrong friends. I mean, it feels so right at the time, but then, oh my God.
Yeah, I look back at some of the stuff we did. My parents divorced when I was really young. My dad had custody, and then at some point in high school, I moved in with my mom and my stepdad. And I look at some of the things that we did. They weren't that crazy. We just had a lot of time on our hands left to our own devices, which this was not, having that much time on your hands now as a teenager with these weapons of mass destruction in your hand, your iPhones. It's a whole other racket and challenge. But I look back and I think, wow, that's amazing that didn't go south. Everything from somebody learning to drive and wanting to do donuts to whatever. We played this, and when I was in sixth grade, oh wow, I was raised in Virginia outside of DC, and we had this group of friends. We were bored, these four guys, and we would like throw dirt clods at windows until someone threw a rock and broke a window. Well, what the hell were we doing? And we finally got caught. And had to go fix things. But, you just think, what in the world was I doing? And thank God it was only that.
We were hooked on throwing eggs because we lived in Montana and we had a lot of chickens that laid a lot of eggs. And the thing is, though, it was all fun until one guy comes running out of his house with a pistol pointed right at me. And I thought my life was over in that moment.
And, and it could have been, especially now, you never know. There's a lot of road rage now, like in LA, or I've been in New York a lot, and you just don't know who's got what in that car, even though they may be a horrible driver.
So true. When you got this script, did you know that your part was this huge? Because what I love about this movie and the way that they put you in this movie is that they put the father in there. And so often these movies feature just the mother, but we are changing as a generation where fathers play a huge role in the creation of our teens.
Yeah, that's a great thing. I have a lot of friends who, the way it worked out, where the mom became the breadwinner, so the dad became the, main at home, figuring things out, logistics, running everything. I wouldn't have done the film if it just read so honestly. It read with such respect for every character's journey through it, obviously mine, but also most importantly, the respect for this 15-year-old girl's and figuring out how she's going to get by. And she does. It's not a spoiler, but she ultimately figures it out, which I love about this film in a simple way. And there's no big bow tie wrapped on at the end. It's just life. And when we were talking about it with Pablo and Sophia, and it was already in there, and there were things that we worked together, and we certainly on the day when we were actually shooting, it was just, what's the most honest, simple, truthful thing that happens here? Because it frequently is the most interesting, right? And it's a small film. It's 83 minutes that has had an impact, that won some awards. It's their first film. It just is so authentic and truthful. And the thing that I love about David is that you learn, listen, his ex-wife passed from cancer. You learn that right out of the gate. And there's things that his daughter, just dots she hadn't connected, that basically the father was helping support the whole time. And that contributed to why he wasn't there as much as he would have liked to have been, as he should have been, and obviously which has caused damage on his relationship and on his daughter. So I rarely watch anything I'm in, not because I'm precious about it, but I just kind of don't. And when I saw this film at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, I was so happy. I kept leaning to the producer next to me and being like, it's so good. It's really good. Because you never know, regardless of what the budget is, what's going to happen in the edit or anything like that. But boy, is it good and special.
I've always wondered about that experience that you guys all come together as a giant cast and you feel good about the moments on film, but then it goes to editing. I mean, that's a completely different world inside that room.
It's true. I mean, I come from the theater. I had my first professional theater audition in Charlotte.
Did you?
Carolina. I did. I don't think the theater's there anymore. Charlotte Rep.
Oh my God. My first wife worked at Charlotte Rep. Oh my God. Yeah. And the theater is still there.
Oh, it is? Okay. I knew there was a moment. There's a, yeah. So I went to VCU in Richmond, Virginia, and we drove down. There were these theater conferences that were the Southeastern Theater Conference, where all of the states and the colleges and the summer stocks and all these places show up. And we did a thing, and we were driving back through, and I'll never forget, we had a road map, obviously, and we didn't realize on this map that the map was about, you had to take a ferry somewhere to get, you know what I mean? So we're like, whoa. Anyway, and I went in, they were doing Midsummer Night's Dream, and I went in and I auditioned for Puck, and I had never done Shakespeare before. I was in undergrad, and it was sweet, but I really had a crash and burn. I just got so nervous. If we shadows have offended. And the guy was so nice. Yeah, my friend Eric Woodall, that's more, where is that? It's Charlotte, and also I forget the name of it. I have friends in Charlotte and Raleigh-Durham and stuff that do a lot of theaters and go to the school, have gone to different schools there. And so, yeah, there's a warm space in my heart for it. There's a warm space in my heart for that part of North Carolina and Virginia anyway, but especially for Charlotte.
So when cool city. When you were part of Charlotte Rep, was it when Becky Kent was a part of it as well?
I don't know. It was literally walk into that theater. I can remember having to walk in, and there was a person in the audience who was very kind, and I just was nervous. I was learning how to be an actor. So, and then we got out of there. I didn't cry, thank goodness. The tears were starting to come, but they didn't drop. And we just got in that car and drove back to Richmond that night. And I was like, you guys, I was horrible. I was horrible.
Do you miss those days of being on that live stage? Because I mean, with the lights, camera, and action, it's like a radio consultant once told me. He says that teaches you to stop. When you make a mistake, you stop. And he says, but when you're doing it live, you can't stop.
Yeah, no, I try to do a play. There was a time, and I'm lucky. I've performed in the West End, on Broadway, off Broadway, around the country. And similar to this film, if there's a good script, if there's something that I really respond to and it's in a moment, frankly, that I can afford it, I will do it. And I want to do, I'm dying to do a play. The last play I did was in 2018, the premiere of this play with Janet McTeer, who was also on Ozark, where we played lovers, and she played Sarah Bernhardt and stuff. Sandra Bernhardt. Anyway, I miss it. I love it. I like the community of it. I like on stage, you've decided to make a thing, and it's exhausting. I have, I'm going to go to New York for the Tonys next weekend because I have a bunch of close friends who are nominated this year. And I was talking with one of them. Sarah Paulson is a really good friend of mine, and she's doing this amazing play, Appropriate. It is exhausting. It is hard. And she's been doing it since November. And so, but there is something, your body is so engaged, and you are having a very communal live interaction with an audience nightly. And in some ways, you are your own editor. So yes, I love accidents on stage because something really truthful is happening, and you're just like, well, somebody knocked over the glass of wine here, so we're going to have to just add cleaning it up into the thing. But and I always believe, I really, that kick is something that I love. And you're kind of your own editor that night. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. So I really I miss it. I like it. And I'm lucky I get to go back and forth a fair amount. When you're doing something like I think this is why I like independent film also, because you are a small community for a very short period of time trying to make, put lightning in a bottle with $1.50. And I believe in those films. In any film, you can feel the energy of the making in the thing, or you can see it up on the screen, And I definitely feel that with this one. it took place. They shot it in Sophia's home where her parents live. They
Really?
of course redecorated and stuff, and they used the high school that they went to, and that guy who plays the high school drama teacher is their actual high school drama teacher.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and so it was all. It's one of those things. I have this other movie out right now, also called The Big Bend, where we shot it in the Big Bend of Texas, where similar thing. You're all crammed into this one house. The difference was the weather in San Francisco. Outside of San Francisco is a lot better than the 122-degree heat every day in the desert, where the only air conditioning is inside this small house. But yeah, there's something about all that effort, scrappy effort, the grit of it that appeals to me. Yeah. We shot this movie in the pandemic. It's crazy that they did it, and also it turned out so beautifully. There's such integrity of it with every character's experience. And the music is great. Boy, it looks great. Scott Ray, the DP, did an amazing job. And it's funny, too. It's one of my favorite parts is the girls go to a party, and the one girl who's sort of coming out in her own way, she's like, I want to go. Everybody's 30. It's so funny.
I'm so glad that you said that it took place during the pandemic, because one of the things that I experienced on this side of the microphone during the pandemic were a lot of scared actors, musicians, and authors because they didn't know. But I'm so glad that the community of creativity came together even in those times, because they didn't know. And I've got the recordings of it where they would be so upset that I would even bring up COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, know about health-wise, all of it. And I went straight there. I finished a show in Chicago called Next. We wrapped on March 6th, 2020. I went to the airport and I was like, wow, there's nobody here. Weird. And then it all began. And I went from, the first thing I think I did was I did Walking Dead. And that was one whole set of COVID protocols in Georgia. And then I flew, the way it worked out, I flew right from there to San Francisco to shoot this film.
Wow.
And, it was masks and sanitizing. And at that point, we knew things about it. So we could work. We weren't. I remember I got a dog in the pandemic.
Yep.
And my first dog, I'm obsessed with him. But I remember the other day, you have those flashbacks right now, like you go into a grocery store or something and you're like, wow, remember when I had to get here at 6 a.m. and there were airway, you know what I mean? And I remember trying to open the doggy doo bags.
Yeah.
And you're so afraid to lick your fingers at the time before we knew anything about it. And it's so hard to open those doggy doo bags without licking your fingers. And the other day, this random moment came as I was about to pick up my dog's poop, where I thought, what a weird thing life is.
You have one of the best quotes that is I think it needs to be taught even more in today's society, and it's about making new friends and the attempt to keep the old. That really hit me hard because it is so true.
Yeah. It's I have a thing. I've always had a lot of friends that were older, and so I've observed in some of those people. I'm good friends with Blair Brown, which a lot of people, they might not know her. She's an incredible actress. She did this amazing series called The Days and Nights of Molly Dodd back in the day, all kinds of stuff. She was in Altered States, really funny. And we talk a lot about the need to remain curious as you get older. And there's one thing when you're younger, of course, and you need to be open. And you are learning things because the experience is so new to you. And in fact, there's a sense of ambition and all kinds of passion and things that hit you as a younger person than when you get older. And then as you start to have experience and you can take the foot off the gas of some of that, you can very innocently, and the way life happens, getting distracted with raising children, all kinds of stuff, jobs, you can very innocently lose interest in other things. And I think there's something I really admire, and that happened in the pandemic too, by the way, where people suddenly thought, well, I have this time, what am I going to do? And they discovered hobbies and stuff like that, but they remain curious. And also you have knowledge as you get older, just by virtue of being on the planet longer and recognizing systems and dynamics, where sometimes you're like, that's going to be a mess that I don't need to get in. It will take care of itself. But over here is something I do need to get in. So it's something I try to fold in also. I have friends from high school still. I have friends from undergrad. I have one friend from my elementary school days, and obviously my family in upstate New York and everywhere we live now. It's it's important. I think there's times we're always looking for where our footing is, and it can go in a second.
Yep.
Not only because of life's things, somebody is suddenly gone from us, but our relationship with what our value is and reality, it can just get really jostled in a crazy way. And so the people who've been there all along, especially your family, they offer one sense of full place for you to land, the net that is there. And then there are people who have been with you throughout your life, or even ones, it's so special the older you get when you actually meet someone where you think, wow, I really like this person.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to hang out with this person. It's so nice when that happens, because also there's a new perspective on you. Wow. And life. I never went to camp. This is a weird non-sequitur, but I went to soccer camp, and it was horrible for 2 weeks of my life. But I have friends who they went to camp to 8 weeks where they just go. And there's something so amazing about it to me as a kid, not only because the parents get 6 to 8 weeks to just sort of look at each other and be like, who are you? How do we remember when we used to have the top down and go crazy and have sex all night? And they get to rediscover, but also for the kid to go have this experience where they're growing fast anyway, on their own, figure something out, and how a kid can have a growth spurt and come back and be just a different person. The core is the same, value is the same, but suddenly there's this whole different person that comes out. And I think about it. I'm sure it's scary so much for so many kids, and I'm sure it costs a lot of money. But I just think, what an incredible gift that is, to have a space to go away from your parents and try to figure out who you are in this moment and come back and go back.
Well, look how many people are doing it these days as adults. When the kids are moving out, now they've got that chance to do whatever they want as adults, and you feel like a kid again. Yeah,
I was I come from a really small town in upstate New York and moved to Virginia, where I was raised, and there are things that crack me up that I just had never thought of. When I thought about being an actor, the highest success I could imagine, which seemed unfathomable, was to be a member of in the company of a theater, which they don't really even have anymore. All I wanted to do was be a member of the Arena Stage Theater Company. And I thought, well, where? Because I don't really want to live in LA anymore. I don't want to be in New York City full time. And so I'm sort of thinking, well, where do I actually want to go? And recently I've been thinking about, and a lot of my friends, when they're talking about where they think they're going to go, a lot of them are talking about settling, certainly in other cities where they didn't raise their families or something, but also a lot of them, for a variety of reasons, are thinking about going to other countries. I have so many friends that have traced their family industries, and they've gotten the dual citizenship things, where I just think, wow, that's pretty amazing that you could go to Greece or Ireland. My friend just got his citizenship in Ireland because he's an artist of I forget the term, exceptional value. So you get to be a citizen there.
You got to come back to this show anytime in the future. I love having a conversation with you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You too.
Thank you. Will you be brilliant today? And congratulations on Edge of Everything.
Thanks, man. Have a great day. Go to Charlotte Rep.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Thank you, sir.